So today's scouting profile, we're going to be talking about Oregon starting quarterback Dante Moore. Now, a little bit of background on Dante Moore. Dante Moore was somebody who started his career at UCLA, and when I do my little personal information segment on Dante Moore, I'll explain a little bit more about his high school career, his early collegiate career, but started at UCLA, transferred to Oregon, sat behind Dillon Gabriel for a year, got his first true starter experience for a full season against a legitimate competition slate in the Big Ten last year. Played pretty well, was somebody who a lot of people viewed as quarterback one in this previous draft class with Fernando Mendoza. Decides to come back for his senior season at Oregon. I think from a developmental standpoint, this is probably the correct move, but it's risky. It was an incredibly risky move. It's been debated, ever since he made the decision to go back to Oregon, and we could talk on and on about whether or not that was the right move or whether or not it's the wrong move. We don't know now. We're going to have to wait till after the season and after the draft and after his NFL career plays out to see if that was the right decision. But interesting prospect in a kind of weird quarterback class this year. I think everyone generally knows the big names at the top. You have Dante Moore, you have Arch Manning. After those two, it can kind of be, you're not picking at straws, but it's a lot of guys that it's a lot of projection. We're talking Lenoris Sellers, Drew Mestemaker. I'm not as high on Sam Levitt. Some people really like Sam Levitt. C.J. Bailey out of North Carolina State. There's a bunch of C.J. Carr out of Notre Dame. There's a bunch of different options we could talk about. Josh Hooper is another guy from Indiana, transferred last year. A lot of guys you could talk about in this quarterback class. I want to specifically talk about Dante Moore today, though. So Dante Moore, starting quarterback for the Oregon Ducks, was born May 24th, 2005 in the Detroit area. 6'3", 206-ish, 205-ish pound pocket passer. Was a former five-star recruit in the 2023 class. Consistently the second or third ranked recruit in that class, depending on the site you look at. He attended Martin Luther King Jr. High School, which is in Detroit, Michigan. Was one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, like I mentioned earlier. Threw for just under 10,000 passing yards and just under 140 passing touchdowns in his career over his varsity career in high school. He won the Gatorade Player of the Year in 2023 for high school prospects, which led to him committing to UCLA. And at UCLA in 2023, so I guess he won his Gatorade Player of the Year in 2022, but regardless, in 2023, he's at UCLA. True freshman, he played in 9 games, started 5 of them, completed 53.5% of his passes for 1,610 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 9 picks. And he got sacked 25 times in 9 games. Just wasn't even remotely close to where he needed to be being coached under Chip Kelly at UCLA in 2023. Transfers to Oregon, like I mentioned in the open, starts in 2025, but in 2024 he sat behind Dillon Gabriel and only completed 7 of 8 passes in 2024. Just did not play at all, and I think given the true freshman season he had at UCLA, this was for the best. This was the correct move if you're Oregon. Just letting him sit and learn behind somebody like Dillon Gabriel, who was coming off a transfer from Oklahoma, who's played a lot of college football. He's played a lot of big games. He knows a lot about the game. It's nice to just have him be able to sit behind him for a year and just learn and just be a sponge and soak up information. That takes us to 2025, in which Moore truly took over as the full-time starter. I mean, he was the guy there, like he's the guy this year. He started 15 games. He led the Ducks to a college football playoff appearance, reached the college football playoff semifinals, completed just under 72% of his passes, incredibly efficient last year, threw for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 picks, with a 163.7 passer rating. He also rushed for just under 200 yards on 70-ish attempts, 2 touchdowns. Not the biggest user of his legs. Generally he is a pocket passer. That's where he's going to beat you. He has a single game completion percentage record at Oregon, completing 27 of 30 passes for 90%. Just an incredibly efficient player when the switch is on. When the switch is flipped on, this is somebody who throws with incredible accuracy, incredible timing. Getting into the mechanics, what I wrote down is Dante Moore to me has good arm talent and really fluid mechanics. It's a quick, smooth release, really good velocity, generated with a really compact motion, has great touch, knows how to knows how to get the proper trajectory depending on the route being thrown downfield, and layering throws over the intermediate parts of the field. Just really, really poised in the pocket. And the mechanics being so solid and so sound helps him to just repeat everything over and over in the pocket. Like I just mentioned, really, really precise with his throws when his feet are set, when the footwork is tuned in. And like, You're not going to see a lot of college quarterbacks who have perfect footwork right away. That's something that they develop over time in the league with better coaching, a better understanding of how to read NFL defenses on a week-to-week basis. That's something that's going to get better. But when you watch when his footwork is good and it's set and it's flowing up through his hips and the release is so quick, I mean, you're staring at one of the more accurate pocket passers in all of college football. I thought he did a pretty good job of pre-snap diagnosis of coverages. I thought he did a good job being able to identify zones, doing a good job of being able to identify pressures. I thought he was able to scan the field relatively quickly from left to right or right to left, depending on how his zones look, depending on how he's reading whatever concept they called. It's obviously something that he can get quicker at, as a lot of college quarterbacks can get quicker at. These are literal children at the end of the day. Expecting them to have a professional understanding of defenses is just unrealistic, and it's not going to happen. But there are certain guys that do it better than others, and I think Dante Moore kind of separates himself from that group as it stands right now. As far as an athlete goes, I don't think he's the craziest athlete. I think he's a little underrated in how mobile he is, because you'll hear people talk about him like he has an inability to escape the pocket and an inability to make things happen downfield. He is a decent runner of the football the same way Patrick Mahomes is a decent runner of the football. He doesn't have to do it. That's not where he succeeds. But if he's in a situation where the pocket is collapsing and he sees a gap with grass in front of him, he can make you pay for it. As far as his weaknesses go, I'd say consistency under pressure. He has a bad habit of speeding up his process at the slightest sign of pressure, which is, once again, it's not an incredibly uncommon thing for college quarterbacks. It really just isn't that all uncommon. He can get hesitant. He can overthrow. He can make overthrows or underthrows when the pocket collapses at a pretty frequent rate whenever he does get pressure. And just against like super aggressive fronts that can get penetration relatively quickly, he suffered from a lot of early career sack and just hurried decision making, and that's gotten better over time. I'd like to see it really all come together his senior season, because that is a huge, if you can't handle pressure at the collegiate level, I don't care how good your arm is, I don't care how accurate you are, I don't care how mobile you are. If you can't handle pressure and you can't diagnose coverages and you can't identify where pressure is coming from, or like a blitzing package, you can't identify where those guys are coming from, then it just doesn't matter to me. And once again, it's all going to come down to how do you handle high pressure moments? How do you handle chaotic situations? How do you handle it's 3rd and 15 and you're playing against 2 first-round pass rushers, and you're down 3 with 2 minutes and the length of the field to go? How do you handle those moments? Because we saw Fernando Mendoza handle those moments exceptionally, and he went number 1 in the draft because that was a huge part of what it takes to be an NFL quarterback. I think Dante Moore is the overall picture of what you want your collegiate quarterback to be, even if things don't go right at first. His journey throughout his college career, starting as a really highly touted prospect out of Michigan, going to UCLA, going all the way across the country to UCLA, nothing goes well there. Doesn't double down and transfer down a level to try to, get some more playing time. No, he goes to Oregon. He sits behind a proven NFL quarterback in Dillon Gabriel, or proven college quarterback that went to the NFL in Dillon Gabriel. And then it was his time to shine in 2025. And now I expect everything throughout the years to wrap itself all into one really, really good prospect, and a prospect that would go number 1 or number 2 in most years at the quarterback position. Really like Dante Moore. If I had to give him an early grade from what I've seen, I'd probably give him a mid to late first round pick, but there's enough room for growth to where I expect him to become the top 5, top 10 talent that everyone kind of thinks he can become.